Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another World of Warcraft video. And as your host, Papatello, always bring you coverage and news and trying to stay positive about things. In a world where there is darkness everywhere, we try to shine some light on a lot of topics. Now, there is times where I'm not going to lie, I get a little pissed off, so to say. And today might be one of those days. We're going to talk about a couple things. And I'm going to try to, be lenient about what I'm going to say. But much love to you. I hope you're prepared. Get the popcorn, because there is some tea today, so to say. We have some tea, okay? A little bit of drama. Settle down, lock it in, don't get packed up or shot in Minecraft. Of course, the Poland Spring, much love to you. However, though, let's get into the video. Before we continue, though, check the link out below, Rested XP, your guide through all of Azeroth for any conquest or assistance of journey, for any quest out there to easily get you to level 60. Much love to you. Support the boys, support the channel. If anything, just like and subscribe. That's all I really care about anyways. However, earlier today, an article came out, right, for player health increase in Alterac Valley and spell adjustments. Now, before this article came out, there was a Reddit thread, which I'll post here, you'll see in the video, that addressed this much faster than any information that we saw on Twitter whatsoever. We didn't see no information. Things were basically just quiet. There was nothing going on, and basically I was a little confused and I was a little concerned, because the one thing I hate more than anything in video games with any company is silent nerfs. I'm not a fan of it. As much as I joke about it, I've made some past videos, talking about, oh, silent nerfs. I made videos like that, striking again. I'm not a fan of this. I don't think it's healthy for the community. I don't think it's good transparency between developers and gamers, and I just think it's better to announce these things a little bit earlier and on time before we catch on to these things and then start posting this online. I really would like to hear this from the devs overall more than anything. But it is what it is, right? The cat's out the bag. There's already being changes and nerfs and buffs. I was really concerned that they weren't going to make a post on it. Luckily, Wowhead, we have a post, and the Classic Dev, on their announcement here, they have announced that, around 6:30ish, that basically a post is going live about, some changes. So we look at these changes, and I was, like, all right, well, let's see what's going on. The percent for, player health that's basically represented in Warsong Gulch and Arathi Basin, it's also being addressed in Alterac Valley. So I'm like, that's cool. We get more health. Obviously, we're in a season of one-shots. It is what it is. But the one thing that kind of bothered me is that they announced Warsong Gulch and Arathi Basin without more sentences that should be behind that original sentence. And the stuff that I want to see is what I always talk about, is actual support for those BGs. Gold, some type of, cosmetic reward, or some type of just gearing reward, etc. Anything. Any incentive for players to get back within those BGs, or more honor from the BRM event added to Warsong Gulch and Arathi Basin. Any incentive for those players to say, I could do this instead of doing just the event, because the event is dominating every source of PvP and every single battleground queue, to the point where these queues are dead. And for all these players that advocated for PvP, and all the people like myself and the PvP community in general that really love PvP in World of Warcraft, especially classic PvP, right? Which was obviously, a really, good time. A lot of people enjoy classic PvP. There is that community that is there. There's a PvP community for a reason. This is really sad to see that these BGs have no queues, or they're just pointless to play at this point, which sucks. I really want to see support for it. However, it is what it is, right? So, for items, we have Shard of the Gods. Summon a minion now has a 20-yard cone, which was 40, and will spend the first 3 seconds of its summon to run into the range of the target. For quests, the slaves, the agents, demon NPCs will now respond much more quickly if there's bugs with that quest. And for the actual class changes, which we care about the most, right? This is what we're here for, is that Druids, the bonus on Moonkin form increases Moonfire and Sunfire dot damage that is increased by 100%, but was 50. So that's a good change for, Boomies overall, because in PvE, they're kind of the underdog right now out of a lot of classes. They're on the low end, and in PvP, that's a better damage increase overall. So that definitely is something that we're going to be noticing that, especially within PvP. But yeah, it is what it is. I don't mind that change. It is, we'll just take it from this point and move on. Hunter Immolation Trap now is a 7.5 second duration, but still deals damage. It deals damage to the same amount of damage as it did over 15 seconds. Sorry about that. I always stutter. And this allows it to deliver all its damage before its cooldown is available again. But for the Baliand, I see here, with Raptor Fury now lasts 30 seconds and increases Raptor Strike damage by 15, which basically was 10% originally, so it's a 5% increase, so we'll take that as well. Mage Arcane Barrage now has mana cost correctly reduced by clear casting, and Pyroblast from Hot Streak will no longer consume clear casting. For Paladins, there's a Divine Light now has an 8-second cooldown. Now, for this topic at hand, this is what I'll shed some light on this real quick, because I don't want to spend too much time on it. The one thing I will say that this affects most out of anybody, it doesn't affect Holy Paladins as hard as you think. I was talking with some Holy Paladins, and for them, this is not a main killing an overall group utility thing, especially if they have their 6-piece set and they're already juiced out, right? This is not the end-all be-all, especially on an 8-second global. But what this does hurt 100% is any Ret or / Ret Reckoning Paladins that choose to use Divine Light in the rotation, or Deep Ret Paladin, more importantly than anything, that uses Divine Light in the rotation. And normally in PvP fights, you would see a Ret Paladin maybe throw in a Repent or Grenade, create some distance, and then obviously throw in a Divine Light, or probably cast 2 Divine Lights. Because if you're using Guarded by Light, you get some limitations on your heals, right? So that would be the game plan. But now, more than likely, you're going to get limited to 1 Divine Light, which is, it does hurt. It's not too good. You would use this tool to help, basically reinitiate yourself in the fight quicker. It was a really fat, juicy heal. One of the better heals, honestly, for Paladins overall. But in general, now for like Deep Ret Paladin, this is kind of a hit for them in PvP, and this hurts. This sucks. You hate to see it. We're still going to have to be spamming heals in one way or another, especially for lower, creating the gap and, pushing our way from the distance, especially in the type of spec or class we are versing, so we can get some heals off. We don't have heals on the go like a lot of other classes do, so unfortunately, we have to stand still with our heals. And when you stand still on SOD, that means either you're dead or close to dead. You never want to stand still, especially in Season Discovery, when the meta is so bursty where everyone gets clapped way too fast. And that's for why a lot of people don't like PvP in general, but that's a topic for a whole nother video if we ever had to go into that. But we'll leave that at that, right? So anywho, Rogues, main gouge was now correctly consumed when you parry an attack, regardless of the type of enemy you are fighting. Focus attacks now refunds 2 energy from critical strikes was 3 energy, and the venomous erroneous spell power ratio has been removed. So I think that's one of the reasons why rogues were doing a lot of damage as well, since it was scaling with spell power ratio from their venomous erroneous, basically the poisons and shit. So overall though, I think that we're going to see some changes in the logs when it comes to the next week or two to see who's going to be now scaling in the top 3. I still think rogues are still going to be eating no matter what. This is something I called even a long time ago when they got a flat 20% damage reduction all across the board, and they were still eating in the the live test servers before phase 4, and they're still eating now. So I still think they're going to be doing a lot of damage, but overall, though, that is something it seems Blizzard, has made the change to. Now, the biggest one out of all these changes is something that's going to be highly controversial. We're going to have Shaman mains in my comments below arguing for it, that it's fine, and they're going to say this is, totally not a problem, yada yada. And we're going to have Paladin people, and obviously a lot of Alliance players saying that this is, a bunch of bullshit. So Shamanistic Rage now grants the rest of the party in a raid, and 18% of the mana granted from Shamans was 10%. Developer notes the change was made to better equalize mana provided to parties and raids. Now, we have to discuss this. Editor, get to a normal camera right now or you will get packed and fired, just like a lot of these folks around here lately. You're all getting trapped and set up and packed up. Settle down and lock it in. Much love. But, I'm not going to lie to you. For a long time, I have been on the side of defending Shamans. Because, I've noticed, especially as a Deep Ret Paladin, there is, a lot of times where I beat Shamans. I've beaten many of Shamans before. Many of Shamans have beaten me. I'm no perfect at the game, but I'm saying that I know they can be beat, right? That was always my argument against Shamans. For PvP, I looked at it from a PvP perspective. Obviously, PvE is a whole nother animal, right? Because when it comes to raid efficiency, having more Shamans in your raid, etc., especially with more mana return value rates, having more Shamans the better, normally, especially on the Horde end. Which makes this big, difference between the scales on how Ally versus Horde rating really is. Horde has always had that natural advantage, right? Even before back in the day. But Ally, obviously in Season Discovery, a lot of things are changing, with runes, and obviously, how we're going about our classes. Horde's always had those, original things with their racials and stuff, and, their classes like orcs and undead, right? But overall, though, I won't lie and say that this change today has made a clear decision on where the Season of Discovery developers' heads are at, for me personally. I never like to say that, they're choosing Shamans as the favorite class or the flavor of the month class, but it's starting to get to that point where I can see where people are coming from. I'm not saying that, obviously, Shamans deserve to be shitted down to the ground, You know, no person who plays a shaman should enjoy their class, because I'm not that type of guy. If you have some egotistical problem with you where you feel like people should feel like shit enjoying their class, you need to get some checks on you, buddy. That's a problem with you. It has nothing to do with WoW. So do yourself a favor. Get out of here. Get yourself packed. Much love to you. But that's just me being nice. So settle down and lock it in, because we got some rough people around here. But basically what I'm getting at is that I do think that, you know, giving them more mana when they never asked for this, there was no conversation, discussion. This is where the lack of transparency comes from. You know, even with, like, you know, if we're gonna, you know, have a poll, you know, at least a bare minimum of poll. What do you see the problems in your raid as ally? What do you see the problems in your raid as horde? Let's have a poll on some things. That's how we communicate with the team and the gamers, you know, and the content creators, anybody, you know, we all communicate like this. This is what it's all about, is communication. But when you flat put something out and just say, here it is, take it, let's see if you guys enjoy it for a couple of weeks of raid logs, and enjoy the natural, you know, advantage that we're going to give to shamans over, you know, paladins giving their mana return rates to, you know, alliance. Let's enjoy that for now. We'll go from there. That's not fun for a lot of people. That's why a lot of people leave the game, because they're tired of playing this version of, you know, World of Warcraft, where, you know, classes are just getting, you know, the hand-picked cherry overall, right? They're getting, like, you know, this, you'll hold the cherry this month, or you know what, this class will hold the cherry this month, you know what, you'll have the golden cherry this month, or whatever you want to call it, the golden egg. However, this is something that I am not too much a fan of. I don't like favoritism in video games. I've never been a person that it's like, you know, oh, this is the one class or the one, you know, character you should play. I've always been a fan of picking multiple classes, right? And don't get me wrong, even if I played a shaman, right, and hear me out here, if I even played a shaman and I was like a top shaman parsing non-fucking stop, I would also say, you know what, I'm not gonna lie, my class is fucking nuts. You know, in comparison to a lot of fucking classes, the spec either I'm playing or choosing to play is fucking insane. You know what I mean? And I can see where people might say we're getting, you know, some favoritism in certain areas of the video game, whether that's PvP or PvE, whether that what I'm talking about in specific. So before any shaman mains flip out saying, what is he talking about, favoritism? We're not favorites at all. Our tanking's not as amazing, or elemental's not doing as great in PvE right now, or we're not even the best healers in the game. I'm not saying any of that. What I'm saying is this: I'm looking at two specific things. One, PvP community, right? Because shamans right now, for a lot of PvP classes, are one of the most mana efficient, destructible classes in PvP. 100%. Not saying they can't get killed, but how their class is designed right now in Season of Discovery, we're talking about from a design standpoint, they are very fucking strong currently in PvP. It's a fact, and you can't argue against it. If you don't play PvP, or you haven't been in 1v1 duels, or you haven't experimented and tested for hours on end, you wouldn't know these things. But of course, if you're a PvE Andy, there's sometimes people, they have a lot to say without actually knowing this information. But for my PvE Andys out there, the one thing I can leave you with is that for the fact that a class has a better mana bar than majority of any other mana bars in the game is something that's a problem. It's something that is not even when it comes to a standpoint of like, oh, paladins need buffs or nerfs, or casters need buffs and nerfs. No, it's the fact that one class in particular has 100% better mana rate values than any other class within a 60-second GCD, and you could stack multiples of that class to benefit your entire raid or party. That's the problem. I'm not talking about, oh, the class is fucking, you know, needs to be nerfed down to trash. No, as a matter of fact, I've always advocated for two-handed hands and tanking. But what I'm saying is that right there is the problem. And if you can't see that the mana bar going from 0 to 100 real fucking fast, and if you have other peoples in the raid that activate the same fucking button, you know, it's just like pushing the nitrous on the vehicle to make you go faster, and nobody else has nitrous. That's the problem, is what I'm getting at. So I think there's an obvious situation going on here. I think people are obviously going to be annoyed. You're going to have your drama, of course, all over the fucking forums and Discord, as they say, and just in general. But I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not a W fan of this decision. I made a tweet about this too. You know, put it here, basically saying that, you know, I just don't think that, you know, when in comparisons, you know, with a paladin, we have to do mana per swing, you know, and Seal of Martyrdom in comparison to Shamanistic Rage is night and day. I'd much rather have Shamanistic Rage than this version of Seal of Martyrdom in Season of Discovery by 15,000 million quadrillion % to infinity and beyond. Seal of Martyrdom is trash in comparison to Shamanistic Rage. It's just the facts. We had these conversations much earlier back in the day during Sunken Temple, when Sunken Temple had one good week for a Paladin to have 130% or 133%, some random crazy record where even content creators were making videos. I remember even seeing a No Hit Jerome video talking about it, where, you know, it was insane. For 1 week, we were fucking blasting mana back to our raid. It felt amazing. And then we haven't felt good with the mana return rates since. It hasn't been great since at all. And if anything, I only hear people in raids, whenever I've been in raids with Molten Core, where people were complaining about, damn, our man is fucking hurting really bad right now. Extremely bad. And yeah, that's an ally issue. That's a thing. That has nothing to do with, you know, classes need to be this or that. The fact is that there's a mana bar problem within Season of Discovery, and one class has the best mana bar out of all of them, and that's the Shaman. It's just the truth. You guys can cry about it, but I'm just telling you that's the fucking facts. Just being honest with you. So, anywho, back into the, you know, the post. For Warlocks, Warlock pets will now correctly benefit from Fel Armor, the ability to increase their master spell power. So that's, you know, a little bit of a nice change for Warlocks overall. Also, another thing that I was talking about with some friends that I've noticed as well is that there is a thing that I saw in an old article from a person in one of the Discords that he basically hooked it up. So I think shout out to Alloyd if I said your name correctly. Basically showing the indifferences between Ally v Horde Raiding when it comes to, you know, druids on one end and druids on another end, and how, you know, obviously, you know, we've had this, you know, we mentioned this before about, like, obviously there is always natural differences, but when it comes to Season of Discovery, the numbers are kind of alarming to the fact where it does seem like for most of the time it is more of a struggle to find a lot of, you know, feral druids on the ally side for raiding than it is when it is on the horde side. Obviously you have, like, your benefits of more damage overall in general when it comes to horde raiding versus allied raiding, especially when it comes to warriors and rogues, which I've known they've complained about. It's about like a roughly, I don't know, somewhere between a 600 or less DPS loss when it comes to having certain things on the horde end compared to the ally end. I remember I was hearing a conversation about that. I'm sure you guys in the comments below can mention a little bit about that and talk about that too. But overall, though, I have noticed that it is a bit of an annoyance more than anything that us, as, you know, paladins, we have to depend on feral druids or even a druid tank having to give up their, you know, their slot to use wild strikes and not use their crit immunity, you know what I mean, in order for us to do more damage. That's just not cool. That sucks. And this is something that I've always wished for, and I just never understood why, since, you know, both classes of paladins and shamans were so close to each other more than people think, that I wish that, you know, we had a rune that just made all our auras give us some type of either wild strike or some type of wind fear or something, because that is something that would absolutely change the game of alliance raiding, where now alliance doesn't have to depend on a druid. Hordes can optionally pick a druid. They don't need to have a druid. Of course, they're going to have a druid no matter what, but they don't need a feral druid if they don't want the feral druid, right? Alliance, we have to have the feral druids in our raids. It is a must. We have to have them. But of course, in Season of Discovery in Phase 4, feral druids are absolutely fucking blasting right now. So both sides are normally going to have, you know, feral druids already running. Most of them now with the Hand of Rag. They're absolutely doing, you know, really good damage. Top 5 in the game, I believe, right now. But just when it comes to, like, the utility, it would be really nice to see if Paladin auras start getting some type of rune or some type of support on the background in the talents or something, because I think that would be the W change for the ally, that finally our auras truthfully matter, besides just using Sanctity aura or Fire Resist aura, that our auras can do something else besides these bare minimum things. That's the answer I think it is for PvE rating when it comes to allies not depending only on druids or wild strikes. And obviously druids can use their other runes besides just using wild strikes, you know what I mean? And then obviously, you know, there's a higher statistic value of, like, wild strikes being used on druids comparison to a lot of their other runes in that slot, because wild strikes is so sought after by so many melee, you know, and it's a game changer as well. It's a noticeable game changer, as we all know this. But for the most part, that is really, like, basically what I wanted to talk about in the video. I hope nobody, you know, took this personally I'm not attacking anybody's class. I'm not trying to shit on you, but I am telling you the truth on how I feel about these things. From a player who's played the game at a high level, and who's played, you know, at a high parsing level, and also played at a level of PvP where I enjoy the game, and that's one of the most fun things I like to do as well. And a lot of my friends and a lot of buddies I know who like to play PvP and PvE as well. It's just, you know, it's very, I wouldn't say a bummer, but I would say it's a little like, it's a little downing, I guess that's a word, or a little concerning, I'll just say. When you start to see, like, you know, this one class in particular starting to get more and more things that they don't need this particular thing. There's other things they need, but this one thing they don't need, and that's what they get. You know what I mean? And it's not because they asked for it. No, none of them asked for it. But it's just given to them. And it leads me to question, who is the person making these choices? Have they done MC3? Are they having personal issues in their raid team with their developers over there that they've noticed that we're not seeing as players? And have they ever done PvP? Like, have they noticed that they lose no mana whatsoever within PvP at all? You know, and let's not even talk about when wolves are up, okay? Like, wolves is a separate conversation. I'm just saying, something over there is kind of nuts. I almost wonder if, like, the changes to make Shamanistic Rage exclusive to a certain spec, maybe to either two-hand enhance instead of giving it to Elemental and Resto, maybe that's the answer. Because that would be like something like a Druid treatment. Because a Druid, if they're a Feral Druid, right, they would have to be using Wild Strikes, you know? Or if they're a Guardian Druid, they want to use the crit immunity, but they're forced to use Wild Strikes if they don't have any other Feral Druids, right? So I'm wondering if they ever decide to make the change where Shamanistic Rage is only exclusive to a certain spec rather than the whole class. But then again, who knows? I don't think they'll ever do that. Obviously, there probably is other things they're cooking about that, you know, might upset the player base in the next couple of weeks or might make us happy. Who knows? I have no idea. I'm just a fucking average guy making content, talking shit on the internet, right? So it is what it is. Listen, that's all I got to say. Much love to you guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. And just know that, you know, I really am having a good time overall. I'm looking forward to the next couple days. We have, you know, War Within coming out. We're going to be covering content on that. So don't get upset if I'm not making SOD content. Obviously, I'm making SOD content too. I'm playing both, playing Season Discovery and War Within. We're just going to be making, you know, a variety of content. And, you know, that's why I want to take the channel in the future anyways, is variety down the line. So, obviously, World of Warcraft is always part of me. So, we'll go from there. Much love to you. Lock it in, amigos. And don't get packed up. I said what I said. This is how I'm going to walk into the Blizzard office if they don't stop putting things people don't ask for. You better act up or I'm going to pack your ass up. Settle down!